Hello everyone and welcome, bienvenue to this Parcours de Femmes of today, which is a conversation with exceptional women who share with us their life journey. So while we're waiting that everybody gets settled and everybody enters the room, the famous waiting room of the Zoom, a few pointers. You have all been muted during the presentation. Not that we don't want to hear you, but you can later do your question and answer in the chat. We welcome actually all your questions, and Stanislas, our director, will pick up the question and Heloïse will answer them. We love to see you smile, so please select start video if you want to show yourself, but if you don't, please stop video. Do not get frustrated by technology. Zoom does not always work. Just get out and get in again with the same exact path that we sent you. We need to tell you that this event has been recorded, and we plan to have this conversation with Heloïse with approximately 1 hour. Aha, here is the part where we're going to test your French. Our Parcours de Femmes, as I said, is exceptional women. They have all chosen an unbeaten path. Some have embraced a career that was more geared to our men. Others succeeded against all odds, showing incomparable strengths. And they are, I hope you follow, pioneers, fighters, committed, visionaries, defiant, courageous, fearless, rebels, generous, free, they're all free, of course, creatives, bold, passionate, and we could go on and on and on. Our woman today, our inspired woman today, is Heloïse Brion. She has chosen to be the authentic woman, la femme authentique. How many times in your life have you thought, enough? I have enough of my job, of the city, of eating junk food, of never having time for anything, for myself, or doing really what I enjoy doing at work and at home. Well, our guest today is going to show us and to tell us why and how she did exactly that. You can find Heloïse, or at this point, I should say, Miss Maggie, on all your favorite social media. And she will explain to us the role of the social media in her work. Heloïse has many followers and faithful members, and you can register, of course, to be a member. Sign up for a live event, and I highly recommend it. And you will not only get a recipe, there's so much more going on this Miss Maggie, not kitchen, but full universe. On her website, Heloïse shows a wide range of lifestyle expertise, and more traditionally here, the newsletter and the printed books are filled with beautiful photographs. In fact, one of you in the audience today will receive and will win one of the recipe books that will be dedicated specially by Heloïse and handwritten on the first page with your name on. These are some of the photographs that also are on the website and on the books. All the pictures, I am sorry, we have a problem with the... Heloïse has caught the eye of many brands that you're going to see in a short moment when technology is going to agree with us and is going to collaborate with us. Precisely, here is the collaboration. Heloïse has caught the eyes of many famous brands, which you will certainly recognize here: Veuve Clicquot, Nux, Nespresso, La Grande Épicerie, and those collaborations are very important to her. I should mention that all the photo credits are of Christophe Rouet. After all, this is a family affair. A Hello and good evening, Heloïse.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. When we start chatting first, actually, we were thinking about a live event. And here you are, 6 hours ahead of us in your home at night in France. And we thank you for welcoming us in your cozy, I suppose it is your kitchen that I can see in the background.
In the kitchen, always. I'm always in the kitchen. Thank you. Yes, we're in Normandy, and it's getting a bit chilly here, actually, now that the fall has begun. But I'm very happy to be spending this time with you and sharing some of things that I've experienced, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions as well. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We cannot start this conversation really without speaking about your father. Your father was the co-founder, and he was the real soul of this Alliance Française, newborn Alliance Française of Miami. And he was a great friend, and of course, he was your dad. So we would like to dedicate this program especially to your father, Jacques Brion.
So I think you would be very happy.
Yes, yes. And we think of him. Well, when we first talked, we said, how are we going to talk about this? And we said, Parcours de Femmes is exactly that. It's an itinerary that we want to describe to young people so they are inspired. So I think we're just going to start by your childhood. What kind of a little girl was Heloïse?
Well, I think, you spoke about my father, and I think I've inherited a lot of him and his character and his curiosity for the world. So I was born in France, and we moved to the US because my father had a business opportunity there when I was 7. So I lived between 2 cultures and 2 countries, because today I feel like the cultures are a lot closer, but at the beginning of the 80s, it was a lot more different. I mean, there was no McDonald's in France yet, for instance, and there's McDonald's in the US. So like we were experiencing, it was sort of the new world still for us. So I think that sort of taught me as well to sort of have to learn a new language, be in a class where everyone spoke English, because they put us in American school, but we would speak French at home and have all the traditional sort of meals, the daily meals at home, which my American friends didn't really have. So I learned to sort of adapt to different worlds. And it was wonderful. I mean, I learned English in Florida, and then I went on to school in Boston, and where I studied philosophy and psychology. So, because to tell you again, like my dream when I was 15 was to sell necklaces with shells on the beach, and my father said, there are 2 things. I mean, he's like, you can do that later, but there are 2 things. First is you need to travel and you need to study, and then you can decide if you really want to sell seashell necklaces on the beach. So I was, anything was possible, but we were between these 2 cultures.
Okay, so you really had a bilingual and a bicultural education, and yes. And you had such a wide choice of study, especially in the United States. So what career did you embrace? And I suppose you didn't go and study how to pearl a necklace with shells or anything that was really manual. So what did you go and study in Boston?
Well, I studied philosophy and psychology because I figured there was sort of like the good basic ones. I wasn't going to be a doctor, so I went towards those things, and I didn't really know. I was still sort of looking for myself, and didn't really know what I wanted to do later. I knew I was curious about the world, so I studied in Boston for 3 years, and then I actually spent 1 semester in Madrid the last year, and then 1 semester. I did semester at sea, which is a program where you're on a boat and you go around the world, and you have classes when you're at sea, and but so it was really nice. And I think it's after all of that I decided to move back to France in '98, right before the World Cup. And because I was fantasizing on like buying a warm baguette, you know, when I got out of work, taking the metro, and all of these things. So I moved back to France, and I thought I was going to be for a few months, and I'm still here. Well, for now, anyway.
So you have that virus of the travel. And actually, when one browses through your website, there is a tab that says travel, and in there
Yeah.
there are some special carnet. And if one goes into those carnet, it's really a wide range of travel all around the world. So it was not only going from the United States to the warm baguette of Paris. There was there some call of the wild that started very early when you were a student, right?
Exactly. I think I had that bug because even when I was studying in Boston, I would, during spring break, I would do humanitarian missions in Honduras, and so I've always loved to travel and to discover a new culture and a new way of doing things, and you know, new landscapes and food. Food. Every time I travel, the first place I go to is the food market. I think it's really interesting, even just to watch people and to see what they offer, but to see what they buy and what they wear and how they do it. And I'm always fascinated by all the food markets around the world.
So we're starting to see there in young Heloïse, we're starting to see this passion for color, this passion for fabric, this passion for food and spices, and so there is something that is how we say, that is born there already when you're a very young student. So we're following the path. So we find you in Paris now, graduate, I suppose, and I suppose you need to find a job.
I need to find a job, and so the first, at the time after the trip around the world, I thought, you know, I need to be able to report on what's going on, you know, around the world. I'd been to favelas in Brazil, to townships in South Africa, and with my camera, which wasn't digital at the time, so I came back with rolls and rolls of film. And I thought it was going to be very easy to be, you know, a photo reporter, and but it's not that simple. But so I very sort of, it actually came very quickly, but I decided to get a job at the International Herald Tribune. That was my first, you know, the first thing that I did when I came back, and I learned tremendously, except we didn't really write there because it was mostly, you know, it belonged to New York Times and to Washington Post, but I learned how to edit articles, to look at, you know, to find photographers around the world and everything. So I did that. And somehow after 3.5 years there, when the New York Times bought out the shares of the Washington Post, I ended up in fashion because someone from the fashion team at the Trib said, you know, you really have a thing for fashion, which had never been a childhood dream at all. I've always loved fashion, but I've never, you know, wanted to work in it. And so she said, you know, they're looking for someone who speaks English fluently, who's bilingual, and it was for Calvin Klein. So I ended up working for at the Calvin Klein office in Paris for a few years, and then. And working for 15 years in fashion.
So here you're really the Jean Seberg. I remind all our auditors that Jean Seberg in Breathless was working at the Herald Tribune, right? So you have a little bit of longer hair. But it was kind of, I mean, working at the Herald Tribune was quite a thing at that time. It was really. It was
amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. It was sort of like a little American village. But we had this whole sort of international, like everyone who was around our age, I was 22, but was from, you know, Sweden, from South Africa, from Asia, like people from all over the world. And we all started as newsroom assistants. So you were, for that day, you were assistant to 60 people, and it was making photocopies at the time, because it wasn't like today with, like, you know, the internet and everything. So we're making photocopies of all the how do you say, the chemin de fer, you know, the layouts, the newspaper layouts and everything, taking notes during the meetings and everything. So it was, I mean, and then you grew as time went on, you know, they tested you and then you grew, but it was an amazing time. And the Trib today doesn't exist, you know, any longer, not in the same way, and not in Paris anyway. So it was very, very, very special. I was actually there for when 9/11 happened, which was also a very powerful place to be working at that time.
Yeah, but there's a lesson there to be taught to the young. You know that this is a mentoring program also, so we're showing, you know, the career of a woman and how the paths cross and how there's, you know, there's luck and there's embracing everything that is thrown to you. So there's something to be said and saying, you know, take your first job, do the best of it, and somebody will have an eye on you and will bring you to the next step. So the next step, as you were mentioning, is fashion. So tell us a little bit.
Calvin Klein. And also just about jobs like that, I think that because what I've done even in fashion, and we'll go through the different maisons, you know, where I work, but I think that you learn from every experience. So nothing is like, oh, some young people would be like, but I wasted time for 3 years doing this job. It's never a waste of time. We always learn, we always grow from it. You meet people, you learn ways of doing things. And what I did in fashion for 15 years, I use today in what I do when, you know, when I develop recipes, when I have to organize an event for a client or for a photo shoot. All of that is always useful and will just make you even, you know, have more knowledge and a richer person inside. So I think every step it's important to go through all of those steps and through all those jobs where it may be making coffee or photocopies or running errands, but you learn so much from it. So that's one thing. So yes, I ended up at Calvin Klein, which was wonderful. It was great. Calvin Klein was also very interesting because we would work on I'd never worked in fashion, and after a couple of weeks, I thought they were nuts looking for a pair of shoes. Like it was like the world was going to explode. You know, and they were looking for them like they were weapons of mass destruction. And I was like, we're not saving lives. And that's where I came up with because I worked in the communications, but I kept telling for all the years after that, I kept telling my teams, it's PR, not ER. We're not saving lives. It's not open heart surgery. So like we do our job well, but nothing's going to happen. You know, in 6 months from now, it's going to be a new collection. No one's going to die from this. So just, you know, stickle, because sometimes people in fashion tend to be a little, you know, overboard. So you just have to always have sort of like your head on your shoulders, your feet on the ground, and just, you know, realize you're very lucky to be working in that industry. So, but I worked there, and but the thing that was very frustrating for me is that I would work on all the seating arrangements, and the fashion show was in New York, but only my boss would get to go to New York, and I, you know, I was like, oh, but I've never experienced a fashion show. I've never done you know, this, and so I decided one season. I said to her, I was like, you know what? I'm going to pay for my plane ticket. I'm going to find a hotel, but I'm going to come work, and I'm going to come to New York, and I want to be at the fashion show. And so I did that one season, and then from then on, every season, it was just normal for them to have me come over, except they would pay for my plane tickets. They would pay for my hotel, my taxis, because they realized that I was also really helping out and working, and, you know, and it was important to be there. So I think that's another lesson, is to always to sort of make things happen. When you really want to experience something, you just find a way to make it happen. Because you have to sort of sometimes prove yourselves, and then you know, people be like, you know, like it's always normal now that she's coming, but I had to sort of provoke that, you know, at first.
Okay, that's good. That's a very good lesson. Push your luck, and then show that you're worth it. That's a very important lesson.
It's important.
So there you are. Now we're following you as a successful, young, beautiful French woman in Paris, living the fashion world. And then something happens. Can you tell us?
Well, then I switched and went to different maisons until the year I turned 40. And the year I turned 40, I did a big burnout, because I think that inside of what I felt within was it was all very nice, you know, working in fashion, but it wasn't what I really wanted deep inside. It was difficult for me to really sort of express my creativity. It wasn't really I didn't feel like I was where I belonged, really. So I stopped everything, and Christophe, my husband, said to me, you know, everyone asks you for your recipes all the time. We had bought our house the year before, and we had baptized it Miss Maggie, because it's very sort of high up and sort of old looking, so it looks like an old British woman and in the countryside. And so sort of the Anglo-Norman style. So, so it was, you know, we baptized it Miss Maggie, and he says, you know, this ever since, you know, we've been coming here, we have more friends coming over for the weekends and everything, and they ask you to write your recipes all the time. Why don't we do a little journal of recipes that we'll print and give to friends and family? I said, okay. So, you know, and he at first he's more his type of photography was more portraits and beauty and not food and lifestyle. So he was like, I'll learn, you know, we'll see. And so we did the first one together, and on the cover I said, what am I going to put? And I decided, since it was for friends and family and everyone had seen this house or been here, we put Miss Maggie's Kitchen, and the name stuck, but it wasn't something that was planned at all. I think if I had decided to start a company, I probably wouldn't have named it that way, because it's very long but Miss Maggie stayed. And then, you know, we officially launched it actually on the 4th of July, 2017.
Okay,
So
there's
6 months
so
later.
many lessons there to be learned. The
Yeah.
first was the quest of authenticity. Now we understand all why you wanted to be la femme authentique. At one point, you felt that the fashion world was maybe not as authentic as it, or it doesn't even look authentic anyways. But let's say you were really out there for a quest for authenticity. Then we're touching up also on the working with your partner, your husband, your partner, and that is something that is very important to you, and that maybe we're going to elaborate, and you can explain. And then also the spontaneity. After all, you know, it's good to have nowadays business plans and you know, and presentations, etc. But sometimes a good idea, spontaneous and just se jeter à l'eau to launch yourself, sometimes it ends up being a really good idea. And
I think it's really good. I think people tend to be scared, and I used to be that way. I wanted everything to be perfect, the packaging to be perfect, this and everything. And I think you just have to start by doing something. You start, and then you adapt and you adjust, and it grows, and your desires will evolve as well too. And I think it's important to just do things, even if it changes completely afterwards. But like, you just people are usually people will put their own obstacles and barriers, you know, and I think we have to sort of let loose of that and sort of feel that freedom, and just try. Nothing's gonna, again, the world will keep turning. Nothing is like engraved in stone, and so and if not, you'll never know. And I think it's too bad to sort of have regrets and to have this, oh, what if, and da. Just do it, you know.
Yeah, and that's a great lesson of a burnout too. Sometimes you try to be too perfect, and you try to achieve too much, and you try, you know, and then no, you have to let loose also your creativity and be spontaneous. So that is very important, and a very important
And
lesson.
I think it's also with the burnout, I'm very happy to have experienced it. I mean, people are surprised when I say this, but I'm very happy to have experienced it, because I think it's actually in the difficult times in life where we learn the most. You learn the most about yourself, about your strength, about your resources, about your creativity. If everything is la vie en rose all the time, you know, it's a whatever. But when it's in the times that are tough, that you grow it every time, and it makes you appreciate la vie en rose when there are better days. But you know, you have to sort of go through this. So I'm happy that I sort of went through this, which was very tough, and Christophe was extremely patient, the boys as well. But because I wouldn't be here today without it, you know, and I'd probably be frustrated during Paris Fashion Week right now. We're living in an apartment closed, you know, it wouldn't be me, and I wouldn't be a very happy person. So, so there you go.
Okay.
So you have to
So
always believe in a brighter day.
exactly, and seek your inner self, right? Tackle the hurdles and seek your inner self.
Exactly.
I think I don't see the screen, but we have to mention the magnificent work of your husband, Christophe Rouet. We are posting the website right now, the link to the website, who does not only all the pictures that we see in everything in your social media, in your books, etc., but also the pictures on his own, and of artists, of a multitude. I mean, I went on the website yesterday again, and I was really baffled by the beauty of those pictures. So I invite everybody really to look at them. So precisely, how is it to work with your husband?
It works very well. We actually worked together in fashion a little bit, and it was fun because people didn't know that we were married or had kids. There's one time when I was pregnant with Balthazar, so our second son. We had just finished 3 days, a 3-day shoot with a model. And at the end, I saw him saying goodbye to the model. So I said, okay, I'll go say goodbye to her as well, you know. And I come up to her and she says, oh my God, Heloïse, he has to show you a picture of his son. He's so gorgeous. And I said, I know, I carried him 9 months and this is the second one. She's like, you guys are together? So we've always sort of had that where we're like, where we worked together. So people who had worked with us and who knew us well, obviously knew we were together, but if not, it just stays very professional. Now that we're working together at home, it's a little bit different, but it's actually very, it's sort of like the planets align, and I think we, you know, sort of, it comes naturally, and we sort of have our vision. Sometimes he says, I won't be sure of something. He says, you know, trust me, let me try something. And then other times we'll do other things. I mean, I am in complete confidence with him. And I know that especially when I have to be taking, you know, when there has to be pictures of myself as well, or film, I know he'll tell me the truth. He'll be like, your eyes, you look too tired, like you have to wake up, or you have to stand straight, or you have to, and he'll be very honest with me about it all, which is, you know, what you want, because in the end you want the results to be nice. And I think that his one of his great talents, when I see what other people do in food and lifestyle, is that he since he does a lot of portraits and beauty, but portraits of real people, not just, you know, models who are 15, but like really people, all different types of people. He knows how to make things beautiful with the natural light, and I think that in his photos, you feel that, you feel like it's natural. There's a softness about it. It's not, you don't feel like it's like, oh, there. I mean, we always work with natural light anyway, but there's no flash, there's no, and so it makes it very real, and it makes it very comforting for people. The feeling is very sort of, you know, you're not scared of it, you know, it's not cold.
So that's a lesson too. You know, you can meet your sweetheart while you're studying or while you're working, and you can still continue your career alongside. Some people are very much afraid to work, you know, to work in the family or within the family. And something, but it does work, and it is a compliment, and it's very reassuring somehow, as you're saying.
I think it has to be very sort of for it to be healthy. Everything has to be very sort of clear, though. I mean, like, I have brands, when we talk about collaborations, I have brands who you know, when they want pictures done, they don't expect to have to necessarily pay for the photos, because they say, but it's your husband. And I'm like, well, it's my husband, but if my husband wasn't a photographer but was a lawyer, we'd have to take a photographer. So like, it's not because he's my husband that he works for free. I mean, you know, he eats beautifully every night, but come on. You know, and so everything is very clear. And then for me, I mean, Miss Maggie's Kitchen is a company, and so it's not for me, but like, you know, he invoices Miss Maggie's Kitchen, I pay, you know, but it has to, I think all of that has to be very sort of clear and very transparent, because it has to be healthy. If not, it can create, you know, sort of.
Let's jump into this collaboration. We know, and people can see on the website your recipes, and on Instagram and live, but those collaborations are really something, and it would be interesting on a business point of view to know exactly how it works. Are the brand coming to look for you? Why are they coming to you? I mean, we have an idea why they're coming to you, but can you explain a little bit of the mechanism, the logistics of these collaborations, and the variety of the collaborations?
I mean, it's different. The thing is, social media is very a whole thing. So we don't, Miss Maggie's Kitchen doesn't live off of the social media at all, not of Instagram or anything. And I refuse to do that, because I mean, we've talked about it, but I don't like the title influencer, because I don't like to think that I'm going to influence people. I can inspire people, but I don't want to influence people into anything, you know. I only speak, also, I don't want to live off of a sponsored post and everything. Every time we work with a brand, it's it's in a global way. So it can be through different projects, but it has to be, it can't be just for a photo I'm going to put on Instagram. Instagram to me is a great way to be able to reach out to people across the world, you know, and to have connections with them in a free way. But and to share sort of my passions and what I do and everything. But it's not where the business comes from, because I want it to be authentic. And I feel like if I'm pushing too many brands, you know, just like there's one brand of champagne that I work with, and I don't have an exclusive contract with them, but I won't work with another one because that's me, because I feel like it makes no sense to work with, you know, different brands, even if I'm approached by them. So I'm lucky to have brands approach me, brands and press actually, without having a PR, without having an agent, and they come to us. And then I really choose, and I make a choice with what is the story of the brand. Does it fit into, like, does it touch me? Do I like the product? And does it fit into Miss Maggie's Kitchen world? Because sometimes things will sound nice, but then it's not very natural. And that I have a hard time with when it doesn't fit naturally. So we work with fewer brands, but we do bigger projects, which I think is more interesting. And yeah, we just launched. I just saw Stanislas put up a link, but we just did a big collaboration with Zara Home, and so that makes sense to me because it's something that goes on their website, in the stores, on their application, in their newsletter, on their social media, and we did photos and film, and Christophe composed the music for it, so it's very global. And it's not just me putting a nice picture of a candle on my Instagram. The only exceptions there are exceptions that I make are for young brands or people who are designers who want to sort of who need a little help, or who want to, you know, have a little visibility. Then, you know, when we meet and we discuss, and then I'm very happy to help them out the best way that I can, and to speak about them, and but if not, I mean, I have big brands, like luxury brands, who contact me, and they're like, oh, we're going to give you, you know, the tableware for 6 people, and then you're going to make the photos and films for us, and we're going to use it as advertising. And I say, no, first of all, I don't need much to be happy. I don't need things. But I do need to pay bills. And at the end of the month, you don't get paid with plates, and I don't get paid with candle holders. You know, like that's not how it works. So I'm happy. You want to send me your things? We'll do a nice table. We can do that. But then I send you an estimate for the work, because it implies, you know, the work of 3 or 4 people each time. It's not, you know, just like that. So it's so I'm very careful, and I think I'm a little different with that than most people who are on social media, but it's very important for me, and that's the way for me for it to be authentic and sincere with my community who's been following me for a long time. I think it really needs to have that, you know, that sincerity, and to stay authentic.
Someone in the audience is asking if you're doing the first move, if you're going towards the brand. We should mention here, because the slide was a little bit quick, that you have a variety of brands. I mean, you have skincare, you have, of course, all the art de la table, everything that is related to kitchen, but not only home and kitchen. You have a lot of other things. And so Sabrina in the audience was asking, are you interested in going towards some brand that you really like, or more in those collaborations that you have presently, or the brands coming to you?
The brands come to us. But like, for instance, Zara Home, I bought things from Zara Home, and so I was thinking, you know, this would be really nice to do something with them at some point, and then they sort of came to us, which was nice. But I don't. Other than that, I mean, I don't go towards them. You know, I'm touching wood, our nice wooden table, but I don't. They come to us, and also we've developed other things with Miss Maggie that we don't have to just live off of collaborations with brands. So we did the whole space that is on a subscription, like membership, People have access and they get new content every week. So there's that space. Then I'm also launching an art de vivre brand. It's going to be named Parsley. And so there's going to be a little fashion. So you always come back to certain things, but a little fashion, not much. And then some things to cook, other things for the table, and then really nice collaborations with brands I love. And then it could be some vintage places as well too. So I think it's not just about collaborating with brands and everything, but it's also about creating your own and becoming your own brand. So you become, I didn't expect this, but you become, your own brand with your image, with the logo, with the packaging. So you have to sort of find the balance between all of that.
Excellent. So jumping through well, there was a question of Russell Kelly that we should address right now, because we're talking about brands. Is it more difficult, do you find, to work with American brands or with French brands?
I feel like the French are more difficult because the French, the French are a little sneaky. They think that you're going to work for them for free, and they'll be like, oh, but it's nice visibility. And I'm like, I don't care about that. So, and then they'll be like, oh, there's going to be no advertising. And then all of a sudden they add, they're like, oh, we're going to do a little advertising. Is it okay for you? So I think the French are a little more sneaky that way. But that's part of their charm. So you learn to sort of negotiate that for them. And I also have someone wonderful by my side since the very beginning, actually, who's I don't have an agent, but I do have a lawyer. And she at one point I let her deal with all of the rights and all of those things, so I can really stay in the whole creative process. And it's difficult being good cop and bad cop at the same time with the clients. So when it's for bigger contracts, I let Julie take over for that part, and then I can stay in the smile.
So it all comes back to business plan, really. It does all come back to business plan. This is a business. Yeah. I think that nobody here should forget that, it seems all natural and authentic and, and relaxed and joie de vivre, but it is a lot of work, of course, and it is a lot of planning.
Mm-hmm. It is, and you have to sort of learn at the same time. Now I have two wonderful women who work with me on the newsletters, because I wanted to be able to send a newsletter every week, but you can't do everything in French and in English and have content and everything. So I have them working with me. They're freelance, but at first you have to sort of learn when it's your baby like this to sort of give something to someone else and trust that it'll happen. But I think that's part of the growing process as well too, and as well communicating with them on the style and what you'd like and the type of when they write for you, just so that it makes so it seems natural and authentic as well too. So it's step by step. I'm learning all of that. It's different when it's your brand, and when it was different when I was working in fashion and promoting some designer's brands, and now when I have to do it for my baby.
Well, that's interesting, because when you represent a brand, the first thing that they teach you is the DNA of the brand and the philosophy of the brand and all this. So how would you define your DNA and your philosophy of your brand, of Miss Maggie's Kitchen?
I think it's all about freedom, because I see it. I see it in my recipes. I mean, if you want to see, I did lives during the first lockdown almost every day. So there's tons of lives on YouTube. You'll see. Usually, I tend to tell people, I say, oh, and if you don't have this, then you change it with this ingredient. And if you don't like this herb, you change it up. And these nuts. It's all about freedom, and that's how I want to feel about this brand as well too. Is to, okay, one day maybe it's going to be all about vintage plates, but tomorrow it's going to be about the person who does ceramics in our village, and it's a lot more modern, but just about being free and just I think it's a lot about being free and being open to others.
Let's talk about the recipe a little bit. We haven't talked at all about the kitchen, and this is Miss Maggie's Kitchen after all. That's where it all started, as you had explained. Really all started, and then you expanded way beyond the recipes. So yes, you mentioned that you do live recipes on YouTube. would you define that you have a very specific cooking, authentic French, or would you be word wild? How would you define the recipes that you choose?
Very simple. They're very simple, because the thing is, I have no real sort of a technical, like I never went to cooking school at all. But I do love products, and I also love when you can recognize what you eat. I don't like it when it's things that are too complicated and you don't know what you're eating. I feel like it's not good for the body or the soul. I like to recognize it, but it's me, And also I've realized, and my mom was the first one actually, my mom never really liked to cook. We would eat very healthy, but it wasn't really her passion. She felt like it was like extra work, and now she's making my recipes, which makes me very happy. But I think that there's a pressure about it. And my mom was from the, les années 68, where women, were saying, we are wonderful outside of the kitchen. We know how to do a lot of other things, and da, da, da. And so they were taking sort of like everything that was happening in the kitchen, like something that was not, that was sort of bringing them down. And I actually, I mean, I can understand that. And I think that whole, time was one thing, but I have such pleasure in cooking, and it could be on my own, it could be with the kids or with friends. And so my idea is just to take simple products that are seasonal products, and then just working with them, and creating different associations, but making it so that what I like is that the whole family can enjoy the same meal. I don't like it when it's like, oh, well, for the kids, we'll have to do like pasta with butter, and for him, we'll have to do this. And so I really enjoy putting a big dish on the table, and everyone enjoys it. Something that's not going to take you hours to prepare. Usually the oven will take care of most, of it. But it's something that's going to be generous, and where you'll maybe have, it depends how many friends you have over, but maybe have leftovers the next day, because leftovers, when they're reheated, are super good and usually even more flavorful. But yeah, it's something, that's going to be generous and family style, and then it's play with herbs and spices and everything. But it's not, I wouldn't say my recipes are French, or they're American, or they're from Indian or something. There, it's sort of a mix of all the cultures that I love.
So you mentioned your kids 2 or 3 times in this interview.
Yeah.
So and we saw a picture of your 2 kids. So of course the question is, how do you manage family and work? But the question is also, how do you manage not to expose them too much in the photographs, in the in the daily life of Miss Maggie's?
Well, I choose when they're going to be shown. Sometimes I'll put it on Instagram, but not that much. Then they really have a choice. And usually, if someone's going to take their picture, it has to be sort of in the family atmosphere, and their father is going to be the photographer. But then the day of, if they don't want to do pictures, they don't have to do pictures. But we're approached by a lot of brands who want to send us like kids clothing, and then they're like, oh, take pictures of them, and we'll give them pants and t-shirts. And it's the same thing with like candle holders. Like, my kids don't need pants and t-shirts, and so like when they're gonna do a job, then if they do a job, then they get paid for it, and that gets put on their account for when they're older, for school, travel, or whatever. But it has to be, but I really try to protect them from that. Gabin actually enjoys. He enjoyed doing the lives. He likes taking pictures. He likes that. Balthazar is not into it as much. So, but we talk about it, and we really sort of protect them from that. I don't hide them completely, because they're part of it. They're part of my life, but I don't use them as my accessories.
Okay, and you do have a secret weapon to make them eat vegetable. I'm sure everybody here is interested in knowing, how do you make your kid eat vegetables?
I have one easy child, Gabin, will eat anything and everything, super curious. And then I have Balthazar, and Balthazar is easy on other things, but not with food. Food is a lot more difficult. But I think the secret is trying to sort of, I figured out that he loves soups. So soups is a great way for him to eat different vegetables, and you do them with the seasons and everything. That at least he gets a cup of soup, every evening. That's okay. We figured that he actually loves broccoli pasta. That's like his thing, and he loves Parmesan. So you do broccoli pasta with Parmesan, he loves it. But then like spinach has to be really hidden. He doesn't like to eat meat. he loves animals. He doesn't want to eat meat, so we go around. He won't eat eggs. So you just, but you find solutions that, you know, where it can, just so he gets enough. But at least the rule in the house is you have to try it. You can't say no without trying it. And then you're allowed to not like it, but at least you try it.
Good. So I think this is going to be the part where Stanislas is going to take over. I just wanted to finish on a wider range, saying what in a few words, what would you call the word, l'univers of these Maggies as it is today? Not a, you know, as it is exactly today.
L'univers de Miss Maggie. I think it's sort of a relaxed family style. I think people can be it's very simple and fun and full of joy, and the whole idea is about le partage. Le partage is really my thing. So the partage can be around a table, but it can be what we're doing now tonight. But I think that's really what's the most important to me. And when I work with even creating products and working with brands and collaborations, and I want to share with you, you know, people who have different talents, whether it be for, you know, creating a beautiful notebook or a product for the kitchen. But I think that's what's about le partage.
Thank you. Stanislas, I don't see you. Can you take it away? Can you address the questions that were in the chat? Thank you.
Absolutely. Anyways,
Stanislas, I should present you. I am sorry. Stanislas, I should present you first. You're the director of the Alliance Française Miami Metro.
Absolutely. We got a question in the chat talking about like your work-life relation, especially with your husband. How do you keep it healthy and clear with your husband at work? How does that work for you guys?
It works well. I mean, I was sort of explaining is that it's very simple. We're very, I mean, we're very respectful of each other's work, and I think we admire each other's work as well. And it's sort of it stays healthy because when we're creating, and it's and actually a lot of people call us to work together, and it could be for Miss Maggie's Kitchen actually, or what we say in French is marque blanche, where we don't appear at all and it's in a whole different style. But I think we creatively we bring I don't know, we bring a lot to each other. And then the whole when it's work, that's what I was saying, is that it stays very healthy in the way that we know that we both have companies. And so that stays very, very healthy as well too. And it's not, one of us will not work for free for the other, or for a brand, or for something. So I think all of that has to be very fair so that everyone feels, you know, at the same level. Even if, in a way, I'm the one who appears most physically, none of this would exist without him. So he's the one who creates all of the image, the music, the films, everything. So if it was just me with my phone, I don't think we'd be anywhere where we are, you know, today. So
okay, so it's like a really and true partnership also.
Yeah.
And when you get like both your expertise in a different field. Going back also to your professional journey, especially in a corporate world, do you think your project, Miss Maggie Kitchen, would have been the same if you didn't have like this long experience in the fashion industry, in the corporate world as well?
no, I think it would have been very different. And I'll give you an example. 6 months after launching Miss Maggie's Kitchen, I was packing up. I used to make these boxes with a few things that I would find around the world, whatever, from artisans. But and I was doing that in our living room on my own, making my little boxes. And I get an email from Chanel, and they say, we want to organize a dinner for 100 people in 10 days. Are you available? And I just laughed. And I was like, they're mistaken. I launched Miss Maggie's Kitchen 6 months ago. They're mistaken. They're like, call us if you're interested. And so I called them, and they're like, have you done this before? Yes, of course. And then I just got organized. And then I knew where I could find, you know, the waiters. I knew, plus it was easier in a way. They already had the venue, so I just had to take care of the food, the team for, you know, the service, and renting the plates and all the stuff, and doing all the floor arrangements. But that was the best way. I think that, and staying in their budget and making in the budget, all of that would have not been possible if I hadn't had those years before, you know, organizing events as a communications director for different brands, before. So definitely, I think every step of your life, it will bring, you know, will bring something to you for the next one.
Absolutely. Also, like going back on your situation, like being your own boss and having like your own brand. We saw like those past months, you know, a lot of people lose their job and they decided also to become like an auto-entrepreneur. What would be the advice you would give them? How to start with, what's going to be the challenge, and how to face it?
So I think, it wasn't, for me, I didn't plan it at all. I mean, I really didn't plan it. It was after my burnout, and then all of a sudden I had to get organized. But I think the most important thing is to listen to yourself, but to also find people to help you. So to see what kind of company you want to do. For me, it's a SASU. I mean, see what kind of company. Have a good accountant and a good lawyer for all of that. And I think that's important because accounting is not my thing. I don't like it. But it's important. And so I have a good accountant who's, you know, we've found the way to work together and it works well. I have a lawyer that I trust completely. And then it helps you sort of to do it. And then I think you just have to go out there and talk about it with your friends. There are different groups as well. Like I know there are different groups in Paris at least, but where there are, you know, women entrepreneurs who can help each other. You can go back to old colleagues who can, you know, who can help you out, because I think it's important not to believe that you're going to be able to know how to do every job that you want to be able to do in your company. So for instance, for my website, I don't know how to do a website, but I have a friend who's very good at making websites. And so I went to him. He's a musician, but he makes wonderful websites. And I said, please help me out, teach me. And so he taught me, we built it together, and then he taught me. So now I can manage the website on my own. So I think it's important to not believe that you're going to be able to do everything and that everything's going to happen all at once. Step by step, and see what's most important for you, and then, you know, one day at a time. To-do lists are very good too.
Okay. We got also another question in the chat that, you know, thank you for all your remark. That is so important, the respect for the woman and her business. In society, sometimes women are not valued or brought down in the early stage. How do you remain strong, but also a delicate woman? That's a question we got in the chat. How do you remain strong, but also a delicate woman at the same time?
I think it depends on the day. I don't know. I'm not perfect. I think there are days when I feel very strong. There are days where I have a lot of doubts. And I think once again, I think there's moments when you have doubts, or moments when there are opportunities for you to grow in a different way, to find, you know, solutions and your creativity. But I think, I mean, you know, I love the family life and my friends, and I'm strong in some things and I'm not strong in others. I mean, I think it's, you just have to be true to yourself. I think the most important is to be really true to yourself and know your limits, know when you're tired. Now, I think that the thing is that now I can really, maybe I don't, you know, I don't make as much money as I used to make, but I have the luxury of deciding that I want to go get my kids, pick them up from school, or that I want to take a day off with Christophe because we just finished a big project and we just want to go walk on the beach, and then maybe that'd mean that we'll work on the Saturday nights, but we have that luxury of organizing our lives and making the family a priority, which is, you know, one of my priorities. So.
Okay, I got one question for you. You know, we are a learning center. We definitely push people to learn French. I mean, to be at least bilingual or multilingual. How does like this perspective, you know, the fact that you lived in the US, you were exposed to another language at an early age, will that shape also your project and your journey?
I think it's huge. I think I didn't realize it when I was little, and I thought it was really tough changing schools and ending up in an American school and not speaking the language. But when you're little, you learn very quickly. But today it's huge because I see it. You know, I mean, most of my community is French, but a lot of them are, you know, half of them are also in the whole world, not just in the US, but, you know, everywhere else. And so English is sort of like the main language, but being able to speak French, I think French, sometimes there are things that I'll say that have sort of that sort of romantic and you know, the langue française is I can't say something different. I mean, with the father that I had, he pushed for the French language, so I think I mean, it's always so good. And when you come to France and you speak to people in French, with the accent, it opens so many doors. I mean, it makes me smile. I wish I had an accent, but I think it's no, I think it's charming, and I think it really sort of creates that link with, with people. It could be in the metro, it could be at a cafe, but all of a sudden you say a few words and it changes everything.
Okay. And last question, maybe, where is home for you besides Normandy?
Where's home for me?
Yeah.
It's very difficult. That's a very tough question. I feel at home everywhere. The thing is, I feel at home here, but I feel at home when I'm in Florida. I feel at home when I go to India. I feel at home a little bit everywhere, which is great. It's a strength as well, but it's also where do I don't know. I think I don't know where to go. When I go to Florida, I say I'm home, and when I'm here, I'm home. When I travel, I'm home, but so it's a little bit everywhere. The world is my home.
Which is good. Okay, thank you so much, Heloïse. Patricia, back to you.
Yes, no, I just want to thank you again, and to say to all the young listeners also that are inspired by you, that you said to embrace absolutely all the experiences that come to you at any time in your life. You said to watch out for the triggers. It can be a mentor, it can be an event in your life, it can be somebody, it can be a place, but watch out and listen to that trigger. Stay true to yourself, whatever you do in life. Try to always stay true to yourself. And of course, be free. And that is, I would sum up what is to be authentic. I think that's what you've shown us today.
Definitely.
So, Miss Maggie Heloïse, we have a tradition at the Alliance, is at the end of the Parcours de Femmes, everybody unmutes itself and joins me for a live round of applause.
Merci, Heloïse.
Everybody unmute. Thank you.